No matter if you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, a few different habit changes can vastly change the day-to-day operation in which you're growing. So today we're out at Paris Natural Farms and we're going to show you a few things that the pros do that you can bring to your garden to make everything a lot better and a lot easier. So a lot of this is going to come down to just daily paying attention to what's happening on your field. So getting out and checking the soil moisture, just digging your hands in the soil where your plants are living and seeing, is this dried out? Is it too wet? Is there anything that's going on from a pest perspective that may change the quality of your plants or where they're living their whole life until you harvest it? Even though all these irrigation lines are set and they're running every single day, that doesn't mean that something can't happen along the way. Maybe you're weeding, maybe you step on a connection or something like that and make it loose. And if you have a leak here, not only is it going to saturate this area, but it could cause problems for some of the plants on down the line that may not be getting enough pressure or any water whatsoever past that break. So still talking about that daily habit of checking the moisture level of everywhere that you're going, you're also going to check your propagation rooms in all of your systems. So if we take a look in here, the first thing I want you to think about is listening. There's fans going on in the background, there's air conditioners, and you're going to get used to those sounds as you work your farm day to day. If you walk in here and you don't hear something gone, a breaker has happened, somebody's unplugged something, somebody forgot to turn on or off something, and that's the one thing that you're going to hear that's going to determine, is your airflow on? Is your temperature wrong? Is your lights going to be on? So pay attention to what you hear first. So as you're in your propagation rooms or your microgreen rooms, let me show you something that can happen and why it's so important to take a look at things continually throughout the day. Now in the morning this is watered, but you can tell that from here to here, this got a lot more moisture than this one. Now, is it because the rack is unlevel and maybe that's something we need to shim later on, not put enough water in? Is it because this is a leading edge and perhaps it's getting more light or more airflow and it dried out a little bit quicker? That's something to diagnose and fix, but either way, right now we need to get some more water in this tray. And just like in the field where we could feel with our hands to see if everything was dry or not, this tray right here looked a little dry to me, but if I just do a little simple touch, I can feel the moisture and I know it's okay. But conversely, I can come down here, I can see that some of these leaves are wilting a little bit and I might need to check, and sure enough, I feel like it needs a little bit more moisture. So is that something to change in the daily amount of water that we need to configure, or is it something that just happened to get missed? We'll have to check into that. So part of the walking around is not only checking one area, but checking your outdoor grows as well. Low tunnels are in effect, everything is nice and covered up. The sun is coming out, it's getting a little warmer. So just a simple check under there. I don't feel like it's too hot, so I'm probably not going to take the plastic off right now. Had it got warmer throughout the day and this thing was really cooking, we may decide to vent this. We may need to check the irrigation. We may need to make sure that it's not drying up on the inside. But you can tell from all this condensation that everything's nice and cozy in this still winter month. So you can hear that there's a little bit of background noise. And when I talked earlier about the indoor grow room and making sure that you can hear what a regular noise would be on your farm, these fans are going, which means that house is getting vented. And so that's great. I'm not gonna drown out your ears by going to check it, but already before I get to the fans, I can hear it, which means I'm using all 5 senses to really make sure everything is good on the farm. So this is a very unique farm in that there's an indoor propagation room and microgreens room, there's field crops, there's low tunnels out there to the side, and then there's also this propagation hoop house that we're going to check next. All of these things are going to be in some form or fashion in everybody's farm. Now, if you're at your home garden, go ahead and leave a comment down below and let us know how that scales down to your area and what you're doing, and maybe that's going to help some other growers go, oh, maybe I need to check that as well. Now we're going to check this propagation house. So already this morning, the covers has been taken off, the watering has happened, and it's probably time for another watering midday. The sun is really coming in, the heaters were going on overnight, and we're now checking the moisture levels just to make sure we're good. There's all kinds of seeds, there's all kinds of mixed crops in here, and each one is growing vastly different. Some of it, we have a little bit of yellowing, which tells me we need to put a fertilization schedule on the menu. And then I come and take a look at over here. The tomatoes are nice, nothing's wilted, which tells me we did a good job of watering this morning. One thing to note as you're doing your walkthrough, some of this may need to be cleaned up, and maybe we don't have the time to do that now, but that's something we probably need to put on the schedule to do at a later time, just to make sure we don't damage anything, we don't lose anything. We've been talking a lot about heat mats as of late, and right here is a little thermostat that's controlling all the heat mats on these heat-loving plants that are being seeded out well before the season They've already been up potted once. Just past that, all of these brassicas, we have some cilantro, we have some lettuce. This obviously got missed this morning, which is why it's important to continually do these checks in the day. Now we can hit these with a little bit of water. And again, these are off the heat mats. It's the same tunnel, but that environment was different from this environment on this table. The fourth habit I want us to talk about is letting equipment do the work for us. And there's two ways that we can suppress weeds. Number one, landscape fabric. We have holes in this. So as we're planting our crops throughout the year, especially in this tunnel that's doing a lot of succession planting, the weeds are not going to grow or at least be suppressed by the landscape fabric while retaining moisture. The other thing that's going to happen in this tunnel very soon is mulch. And that mulch is going to eventually break down over the course of the summer while allowing us to walk at an elevated pace. So as this irrigation waters the crops, we're not going to get our feet wet, we're not going to get our equipment wet, and we're going to stay dry, and we're not going to ruin the soil or have any runoff issues. So suppressing the weeds, suppressing the runoff, eventually feeding the soil as it breaks down and becomes mulch itself, all while doing us a favor by not having more weeds grow up. The fifth habit I want to talk about is keeping records, whether that's on your phone, whether that's on paper, in a journal, or in this case, back here, I'm going to flip it around. There's critical information as to what we're planting, the densities, the weights, the schedule, and other notes that are here and on paper. So record keeping may seem like, well, just another thing to do. And the thing to keep in mind is just do it in the way that you're going to make sure it happens. So whether that's pen and paper, if you're old school, or maybe if it's on your phone because you always have it on it, maybe you're listening to one of our podcasts while you're doing it. But either way, making sure that you're keeping an eye on the daily changes, the seasonal changes, and that way as we go into the next fall, we have something that we can look back on and go, I forgot in the summertime that this variety did better than the other variety. And then you can make those changes and not waste as much money in seeds. And I'm just hoping that all of these habits give you an idea. It seems super simple, and we're doing these videos right now. Really just go back to the basics, because a lot of times we'll get so advanced that we miss the daily habits that all add up to a great year. So again, anything that you're doing on your farm or in your garden that you think could help another farmer, please put it in the comments below. We'll add to it if we can, and maybe it's going to give us an idea for the next film. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.